This is a very good linebacking class. Like, really, you could probably find a quality starter on day 3. But I'm here to give you my top 10 linebacking prospects in the 2021 NFL Draft. That's right, my 10. If you want to see the full rankings, you go to ftfn.com. It's the pinned comment. It's also in the links in the description below. But what's crack-a-lackin'? I'm your boy Baroshmo. Just in case you did not know so, go ahead, do the whole YouTube thing. That means become a bro and subscribe. Thanks. And leave a comment and a thumbs up. I'm always down for a little intimate football discourse. But I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the nitty gritty. Let's talk these linebackers. Hold on. Let me do the... Oh, no. I'm not prepared for this. Well, let's go with the first guy on this. Cameron McGrone, dude, out of Michigan. Hopefully I didn't butcher that last name. This guy, honestly, I feel like this season for him has been a bit of a wash. You could probably say that for many, like, just Michigan as a team hasn't been that good this season. But I mean, honestly, like, I think nothing this season has really changed my opinion on him as a prospect. Like, I think he could be a solid linebacker. I don't know if he could be anything more than that, but I mean, he was one of the best run stopping linebackers in 2019. He was okay this season. He does add some nice ability as a pass rusher, as well as he had 23 pressures and 5 sacks on only 77 pass rusher snaps in 2019. He didn't do much of that this season, though. Like, they didn't really ask him to do a whole lot. However, I did want to see an improvement in coverage, and I guess we kind of saw that. I mean, the year before, he allowed 341 yards and 2 touchdowns on 12 receptions, which isn't terrible. So far, through 5 games, I think it's been 5 games, right? Yeah, I think they've only played 5 games, but he's only allowed, like, I think a little under 100 yards total in coverage. So, not bad. Like I said, this season really hasn't changed my mind on the prospect. The guy I have at 11, which if you want to see who's at 11, you gotta go check it out on ftfn.com. I really considered maybe having him jump McGrone, but I'm gonna keep him here for now. Then we got Jack Sanborn out of Wisconsin, dude. He's, let's say the bad part out loud first. Average athlete. You know, and that's not terrible at linebacker. You could get away with not being elite athlete at the position because the guy's got good change of direction, and he's actually I would say, I guess he's very savvy. He never puts himself in a position not to make a play. You know, the thing is, no real power to his game. You can kind of tell that as a run blocker, and you can kind of, or a run defender, and you can kind of tell that as a tackler, though he has become a better tackler this season a bit. Like, he had, what, 24 missed tackles on 100 attempts in 2019. And this year, he's kind of cut that down. Granted, we're in a shortened year. And you know what? The dude adds some pass rushing upside this season. He's got like 19 pressures, which I'm very impressed with. But his calling card, and probably what I love most, I'm a sucker for that are linebackers that are good in coverage. And you know what? He's been good the last 2 seasons, so he might not be a guy you want around the line of scrimmage. But I mean, again, tackling, that's something you can coach at the next level. And I just love a guy with this type of instincts. That's probably the word I was looking for, instincts. And then we got Ventrell Miller out of Florida. Might be a surprise on this list because there are a bit of limitations. Like, the dude's stupid fast, and he kind of reminds me of Troy Dye. Except for Troy Dye had really good length. Miller does not. He has no length whatsoever. But in terms of his play style is very similar to how Troy Dye was at Oregon, as he, in terms of his opportunist ability to make plays, like in the backfield. Because this guy, he's not great. He's not going to be great at taking on blocks. You know. Actually, he's probably going to be terrible at taking on blocks, you know? But he's savvy enough to kind of find his way to the ball carrier some way, somehow. Like I said, he's very good on delayed blitzes. Like, Oh, did I put this stat in here? I did. I think he's got here. I can look it up real quick, man. What am I saying? But this is what I mean by like he's actually put in some decent pressure this season for Florida. Come on, baby, show it to me. Yeah, like he has 8 pressures and 4 sacks, you know, and he's not like it's not like he's beating guys on the edge or anything, but he's kind of coming, waiting for holes to be opened up, and he's just penetrating, you know. Sounds dirty, but it is what he is. It is what he's doing. He's also a very sure tackler. Again, maybe the lack in size and length, it could be an issue, but I really like what he's done in terms of coverage. The only time that things get really muddied up for him if he's forced to cover the slot, and it's not ideal. Like in the SEC, like Elijah Moore, that's not fair. That's not fair for anybody. You put a corner, you put a safety on Elijah Moore. Don't you put a linebacker? That's just stupid. But I guess it's not wise to put Marco Wilson on anybody either. Gosh, man. Woo. Throwing out shots. But like I said, man, I think he would have problems with shiftier guys like an Elijah Moore. But again, dude, this guy, he does make plays in the backfield. I think he can take on tight ends in coverage. And again, he's just savvy enough to get to ball carriers, even in the backfield, and he does create pressure. So he's a guy that I can see maybe, I think, is he just a junior? He might, honestly, he might just come back. Yeah, he's a redshirt junior. Redshirt, that kind of makes, I don't know his age, but be interesting to see what he does. But since he won't have a chance to do any off-season bowls or anything, but I've really come around to this guy. And then next on the list, CHAZZ SURRATT out of North Carolina. Dude's a former quarterback, and you can really see his prowess in coverage and really his understanding of looking at the quarterback, understanding routes and whatnot. Like, he was pretty good in coverage in 2019. He did take a significant step back this year, though, in that. And I think that's just part of him. He's still learning the linebacker position. He's still developing. So, like, you got a really good building block here in terms of what to do. He's a sideline athlete, and he's really improved as a pass rusher this season. He has 33 pressures and 7 sacks. Like, that's what North Carolina has really been doing a lot with him. He has been a bit of a better tackler this season. He does go through little spurts of where, 2 games and 6 missed tackles. What the heck's going on? And then, you know, it won't be an issue for the next 2 to 3 games. So, again, even in coverage, it's kind of been rough this year. He's allowed 27 receptions on 32 targets for 521 yards. But again, this is a guy that's still learning the position, and his progression in year 2. This is year 2 of him being a linebacker, is very encouraging. But again, because of that drop back, setback in coverage, has allowed, I think, a couple other guys, one in particular, to jump him. But we're going to go to Dylan Moses, because let's just face the fact. He's a freak athlete. He's going to get drafted in the 2nd round. Maybe even the 1st, I want. But he could. Because of that, like, the guy, he's going to run in the low 4.5s, maybe even 4.4s. Again, sideline to sideline player, great explosiveness. Been a bit of a rough season, though. Keep in mind this season, though, with him, he's just returned from injured ACL, dude, and he's playing a different position along the linebacking core. And he's actually having to take on more responsibility. So he's really gonna get drafted based on that potential and that upside, and I think that's worth taking a shot on day 2. But yes, it hasn't been the best returning season for Dylan Moses. So let's talk about the guy that I really have jumped into my rankings like 3 or 4 spots. JABRIL Cox, man. I really like JABRIL Cox. He had a really rough outing against Mississippi State when they brought the air raid offense to the SEC, and it was going to tear the SEC apart. Rest in peace, KJ Costello, am I right? But Cox, he's been kind of mostly used exclusively as a coverage player. They haven't really used him in the pass rush or to try to bring pressure, which I think is I don't know. This is a guy that came from North Dakota State with what, 14 sacks. Like, he was productive as a pass rusher there. So I thought they could have done a lot more with Cox. But let's talk about where he's done well, because he's been a good tackler. And you know what? After that Mississippi State game, he really has done well in coverage. Like, he's probably the most battle-tested linebacker in terms of coverage this season. He's only allowed 26 receptions on 41 targets for no TDs, 3 interceptions, 4 pass breakups. I mean, I like it. I like it. And it sucks that they've only thrown him out as a pass rusher 36 times this year. But yeah, no, I think outside of the top 4 linebackers here, which I think are kind of cemented, I think he's kind of made a argument right now to be like, okay, he's definitely 5. So let's talk about all my first round linebackers. We're going to start with Nick Bolton. He hasn't nearly been good in coverage this season, but in 2019, also keep in mind, he was like the best coverage linebacker in football. So yeah, there's going to be regression when you were the best. But he has stepped up in terms of making plays in the backfield. He has 16 pressures, 3 sacks, 7.5 tackles for loss. The guy's real compact. He stops ball carriers in their tracks. He probably has some of the best instincts in this class. I really like him as a prospect, but I think the other 3 kind of have a little more razzle-dazzle to their game. So let's talk about ZAVEN Collins, dude. This guy can end up top 15 with his skill set because he's got a great skill set for a guy that's playing at 260 pounds. Like, dude, 16 pressures, 4 sacks, and that's only on 51 pass rushing snaps. But also in coverage, he's been great in coverage. He's only allowed 102 yards this season. A passer rating is 62.2 this year when targeted, with 4 interceptions, 1 being a pick 6 for the win in overtime against Tulane. My gosh, like I said, his skill set is kind of scary. You might want to people might be like, oh, it's reminiscent of maybe a Jamie Collins, Kyle Van Noy. Honestly, I would say more towards Collins. I think he plays I think he plays faster than Van Noy. But yeah, no, I think this guy's skill set, man, will get him. I think he could sneak into the top 15, and I won't be surprised by that. So Jeremiah OWUSU-KORAMOAH, of course, he's number 2. Got to rep the Bethel kid, dude. Much appreciation. The kid just makes plays that most linebackers just can't and won't. I get it. His size, it's not ideal, but the dude plays with so much speed. He takes it from 0 to 60 in no time. In 2019, he was kind of playing that linebacker safety hybrid, kind of like that Joker role. This year, he played actually a bit more in the slot, which allowed him to allow a bit more yards in coverage this season. In 2019, in the final 6 games, he only allowed 36 yards in coverage. This season, he's allowed 363 yards in coverage. But like I said, he's playing in the slot. So I love a guy that can play in the slot, because that's not half bad. That's actually not too bad playing in the slot. Typically, if you're in the slot, you're going to get blown up for like 700-800 yards. So again, I love his traits. His ability in coverage is really good. And the dude just blows up, he blows up protection. Like, he could just fly by tackles on the outside. Like I said, 0 to 60, maybe 0 to 70. I mean, you could just take a look at his touchdown against Clemson, where he basically just intercepted a pitch. It bounced off Travis Etienne's hands. I think you could kind of tell that when the pitch was made from DJ, Travis Etienne was like, I'm about to get laid out. And he kind of made a move to look forward and bounced the ball right into OWUSU-KORAMOAH's hands, and he just took off to the end zone. It was just a thing of beauty. But this is also a guy that's kind of to the same mold of an Isaiah Simmons, Jeremy Chin. And while the NFL, I think they're still learning how to best utilize guys like that, I think they're starting to appreciate guys like that. So I won't be surprised if this guy maybe even sneaks into the top 10. But let's talk about Micah Parsons. Everyone's number 1. He opted out. He didn't really need the season. Let's be honest. The dude, he's a freak athletically. He could be the top edge rusher off the board, arguably. He even, yeah, in 2019, he had 23 pressures on only 87 pass rushing snaps. Like, and he's at 245, 6'3". Like, the guy, he destroys blockers, just pushes them back. The guy is phenomenal against the run. He isn't, like, he's not a playmaker in pass protection, but by no means does that mean he's bad. Like in 2019, he allowed no touchdowns and only one game for 50 plus yards in coverage. So not bad. Like I said, his athleticism, instincts, this guy's a top 5. You know, he might slip a little bit just because, you know, quarterbacks, they're more valuable. They're going to push other players down. So I don't think he escapes the top 10, but if he does, man, someone's gonna jump and get themselves a good steal. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. It's always much appreciated, much obliged. And as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.